Microsoft is showing their upcoming Surface computing system in various cities. They are putting it on display for the public tomorrow, Saturday, November 10th, 2007, at the Sheraton Hotel in Boston. They invited some of us, both traditional press and bloggers, for 30-minute private sessions, either Friday or Saturday. I opted for the 11 a.m. slot on Friday, which turned out to be the first slot. I recorded this with one camera on a tripod aimed at the device. We don't actually start using it for several minutes, so I'll show other video that I took and photos I took before the interview while we're doing the talking.
So why don't you tell Jeff a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of this discussion and how you want it to go? So,
I've seen the movie, all the videos you have, and they're all professionally. I'm not going to be able to do any better than that. And others can see that too. So the question is, well, what, given my audience, which is CTO types, visionaries within corporations of all sorts, people who program for many years, etc. That's the people they're going to want to see where the edges are, where some things that the general idea they've already seen.
Sure.
Okay. So they're going to want to get a little further down in terms of some of that stuff, and see the little things that you would only notice if you're a techie watching the thing and you go, aha. Okay. With some of the things, your wallpaper is looks like it's more live, it's more of a video or something like that, or more of a game, and stuff like that. But they make here like with the heat's coming out of the side over there, and what it looks like underneath. I've taken pictures already of that.
Sure.
So that's where I'm sort of aiming at. You are say your name so I have it.
Jeff Gattis.
Okay, and you're.
I'm in charge of product management, and actually now I'm moving into oversee our entire commercial business.
Okay. And product management, your background is?
Background is investment banking, software. I worked at Gateway Computer in San Diego where I ran the software business. Came to Microsoft about 4 years ago and have been with the Surface team really since incubation. So
okay, so you're coming out of the MBA side of the world as opposed to
I am definitely from a business marketing side, but I oversee the product decisions.
Okay, you don't have you didn't program in the old
I don't write code.
Okay,
I'm a geek, but
okay, fine.
But I don't write code.
Okay, so I understand where you're coming from in terms of that. Okay, so show me a little bit of the beginning of your demo or something, and so this is the unit this is basically the unit that you're going to first ship.
This is Microsoft Surface. This is a unit you'll see beginning in the springtime is where you'll see the first deployments with our commercial partners.
Okay.
Thus far we've announced Harrah's Entertainment, Starwood Hotels, we're here at the Sheraton today, T-Mobile USA in their retail stores, a company called IGT, International Game Technology, which is the world's largest manufacturer of slot machines, for lack of a better term. They will look at it using it as a gaming platform in a casino-based environment. Then we have a number of other partners that we will be announcing over the next 5 to 6 months, but primarily in the hospitality and leisure and entertainment spaces.
And are these, if I was a corporate developer, I'm at a Fortune 500 company, not Fortune 10, and I want to start experimenting with this, are these units available?
They're not available today on a public basis. So, one of the things you got to remember,
that's not public. That's not the same as me walking into, into Circuit City and picking one up.
Correct, but we're still inventing this today.
Okay.
So what we've done is we are building alongside as we work on, as the platform evolves, we're rolling more and more controls into our software development kit. We've done our third release of the software development kit to our announced launch partners. So they are actively working with the SDK, building their own applications. We also have a small community of independent software developers that's working with our commercial partners to help them build their applications.
So they're like the VARs that they brought in to do the work for them.
Correct.
Right.
And so the way we've looked at the development community, which is obviously very important to us, we're taking a more organic approach to growing that. So we will continue to add to the development community, get more SDK units out as the SDK evolves and as we have more hardware availability.
To have the SDK, basically, as I saw it, you sit on your machine doing your editing, and you push a button and it shows up in this machine. And so you basically have to have one of these, to be able to...
That's correct, but we also have, in this last drop, we have released our emulator. So now we can develop in a Windows PC environment, and then you would still need probably a unit at some point to compile your code, but
how do you get the multi-touch in the emulator?
We basically, you plug in multiple mice
within
the PC environment.
Okay, to do that. Okay,
so we're actively looking at ways to accelerate the availability of the SDK. I don't foresee any time in the next 12 months where you'll see it absolutely, orderable via the internet.
Right.
But we certainly do look to accelerate the development community. Obviously, it's very important.
Well, it's clear that if you were a corporation, this is a long-term. I mean, this is something you're going to experiment with for a while. You're going to have to prototype some things. You do some testing of all sorts, usability testing and all. So it's a long-term process before you can roll it out, especially a corporation that would roll out a lot of copies. So you need a long lead time to get that. But you only need one unit to start with.
You only need one to start with, and to your question, I'd say yes and no. Some, some companies are on longer lead times and want to do a lot of prototyping, then do a small pilot, and then decide about a broader rollout. We've been overwhelmed though with the interest we've had really worldwide, and people who are willing to, looking at aggressively accelerating the rollout of these. So we expect to see some of that in the spring.
Okay, so let's see what. So the capabilities of this thing are, it's basically, it looks like it's projected, but it's very good off-axis. I can go way down and I can still see it, right?
It's a projected image. There's essentially, I like to talk of it as three simple components. You have a motherboard and processor inside, so essentially a PC. You have a DLP light engine, so it's a custom light engine, but it's obviously built down on the side here. So we like to think of it much like a rear projection TV set, but down on a horizontal interface. And then we have cameras inside of the unit, and there's 5 cameras inside of the unit. We put a filter on the cameras so that they only see in the infrared, and then we're essentially blasting infrared light under the surface. So what that's enabling is, it's literally when my finger hits the surface here, I'm reflecting light, infrared light. The camera sees that.
So it's only when you actually, you get near it, it's close enough, right?
Yes, basically this is a diffuser, so it doesn't see the activity, or it sees a very cloudy image up here, but when we get close, the finger becomes a lot more clear to the camera, and we tune the software so that it doesn't pick up sleeves and other activity that we don't want it to pick up.
Okay, so here I'm up above it and it's moving, it's working fine. It knows that I'm here. Now I'm up at about 4 inches. Now I'm at about an inch or something, and when I actually touch it, it actually responds. So that's, okay, so about touch, proximity, further proximity, and so it's kind of like the pen.
We know all of them. We can tune it different ways. Now the responsiveness is something we continually hear about in our research. It's something that's very compelling to end users. They don't want things happening necessarily when they're hovering. So we want it to have the feel of a touch system, but it's a vision system. This is just a piece of plastic, so very durable. And it's only seeing a finger. It's not a capacitive
scratching.
System
it's not a problem. You just replace it or something.
Yeah, and we do a lot of work with the tabletops to ensure. We're going to put a hard coat on it. Obviously, if these are in casino environments, you're going to need to be able to withstand a lot of pressure.
Okay, so show me something.
So this is a simple what we call our water screen, or attract mode, which is basically just the first screen you would see. For commercial partners, they'll have the ability to lay their brand underneath here. So very customizable, which is an important tenet for us. I'm just going to jump back.
What did you do? You hit an exit. There was
hit an exit button.
There was a word that said exit in the corner, and you touched that.
I did. That's not. Now I want to preface that these are all still demo applications, so that's not final code. Well, we clearly wouldn't put an exit button in a corner. We'll have something we call access points, which are little points of contact in the corners that allow you to exit out of applications. This here is our launcher, so this is essentially the shell that allows you to navigate through the various kinds of applications that are on the system.
Okay, so
operates like a film strip.
Okay, and it jumps kind of. Does it have?
We're working a lot on the usability of it to smooth it out. We do a lot of testing. I mean, the one thing we've done with this product has been very customer focused, customer conscious. So we put these things in front of people. Does it work for you? Does it not work for you? And we make the appropriate changes. I'm going to start by just showing a paint application, which the application itself isn't anything terribly compelling, but it's a great way for us to demonstrate some of the unique things that we can do. So people ask us a lot, what is Surface? Is it just a touch system? What's different about it? There's a couple of things. I mean, obviously, as you're demonstrating, it is a touch system, so that's one of the unique attributes. But we've seen lots of touch systems out there. Question is, what makes Surface different? Well, one of the main things that makes it different, I'm just going to clear out some of this, is the multi-touch capability. So this ability to, because we use cameras underneath the system, we're able to detect multiple simultaneous inputs. So this enables us to use gestures to interact with content instead of normal touch points. It also, when you combine it with a horizontal form factor, enables the social attribute. So the fact that you and I could sit here and be, we'll show some other demos going forward here, but we can be engaging and we could be moving photos around, documents around, engaging with different types of information.
What's this?
That is what we call, the handprint mode is basically a raw image capture.
Oh, okay.
So we could demonstrate, actually I'll put it in a finer tune, you can even get a better idea, but this is to demonstrate what the system's actually seeing underneath, and I think it's important to give a glimpse to the future.
Okay.
I mean, as you think about, we don't have.
So you see pressure, you see.
I mean, that's a raw image capture. Now, a lot of times, what we were doing before when we were painting is we were actually stitching together dots. But when we put it in raw image capture, this is literally what the camera is seeing. And one of the reasons this is important, we think, is it gives a glimpse toward where surface computing is going as a category. Now, today we don't have the resolution in our cameras to be able to, to read a document per se or a business card. But going forward, as resolution continues to increase, we will have that ability to lay a document down on the surface.
It's suddenly clear?
That's because this application, we just changed the mode to a black colored paint, which is essentially, effectively, it becomes an eraser.
Okay. Okay, so go on. Yeah, sorry.
So again, as we look forward at our roadmap, we clean up the system here. As we look forward at our roadmap, we really look at increasing resolution of cameras, being able to do things like put documents down and do rapid scanning. Probably 3 to 5 years out, but not 15 years
Okay, so
out.
basically you're taking the optical side, is basically you're riding the optical curve.
We are.
Okay, that's
yeah. Vision. We've invested a lot in a vision-based system. We believe. From a performance standpoint, some of the unique things that we can do to continue to innovate beyond what you're seeing here today is vision-based.
Show me some more capability demos, okay.
Some other things just within the, I'll stay within the paint application here, is our ability to interact with objects. We could do that in a couple different ways. The simplest is just a regular physical, any object that will reflect light, so just a regular paintbrush. I'll go ahead and do some painting there.
So now,
so again, it's just
does it know that that's that versus no?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Again, it's operating. All the cameras are seeing the paintbrush instead of our fingers.
Okay.
So that's one way we do it. We can also detect, as we showed with the handprint, we can detect shapes of objects. Maybe put a reflective glass down and be able to see the pattern of the glass. And then a third way that we do object interaction is through optics and patterns. These optical tags, very simple. These are just some simple 8-bit tags that we've created.
Let's see, I can't. Little dots there. Okay.
So we actually have what we call our high-res tags back in Redmond, which allow us to do literally millions of unique IDs. These are just some simple 8-bit tags, but they demonstrate the fact that we can associate different kinds of interactions by simply putting a pattern on an object. So think of it like a barcode system. But where this gets interesting, and we'll show in some subsequent demos here, is when we can do things like put an optical tag on a loyalty card or a room key.
Same type of thing. Okay, yep.
And I should point out that we can, we're working with printing processes where we can print these optical tags right on the back of a regular card and make them visible in the infrared, but not necessarily to the naked eye. So the 4 attributes we talk about, the direct.
So this thing actually looks through the screen. It looks through the screen, sees things above it, and whatever infrared can get, you can deal with. So you can do all sorts of cool things with that. Okay, go on.
Yes, it's a vision system. We are seeing things. We see fingers, we see patterns, we see shapes of objects.
Okay, and so it's more like the Wacom tablet in terms of with the pressure, you have a lot of degrees of freedom of what you get.
In a sense, I mean, the Wacom tablet is a capacitive-based system.
No, but what it does is it gets you angle, it gets you distance, it gives you a whole lot of pieces of information you can use any way you want. This gives you a whole lot of pieces of information.
In that sense, yes, but we can have literally we optimize around 52 simultaneous inputs, so we can have 52 different fingers, objects,
and each of those objects gets an image, so to speak, how close it is or how dark it is.
Correct.
Okay.
And our SDK, or the platform, will tell you exactly where that image is on the 30-inch diagonal screen.
Okay. And those attributes.
Correct.
Okay. And so then separately, if it sees, if it sees this, now this is 32. Is this
That's just
7 of them is the...
It's just an 8-bit tag there.
It's an 8-bit tag, but what is it? So what is this seeing? It's seeing more than that. This is actually seeing a pattern.
Yes.
This doesn't come out of the 52. This is 1 out of the 52?
It's 1 out of the 52, correct.
Oh,
not
okay.
8.
And this is done in the software, or I mean, is this... The SDK gives you access to try different types of...
It does, and literally, we can literally print the tags out with a simple laser printer. So.
No, but I could have a new type of tag if I wanted to try. I could recognize the other side of this if I wanted to.
Our system is tied to a pattern-based system, so you would either use these tags or the high-resolution
ones.
That's
at the SDK level. Can you get
yes.
down further in the SDK to actually get to the vision level and see what the camera sees?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
You can get a raw image.
Okay,
capture.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So raw data is part of it, but the key with the tags is that we can associate, and our SDK will allow you to associate any kind of information you want with the individual tag, whether it's a video clip or customer data.
That's at a higher level in the SDK, which is
correct.
Okay, and the SDK gives you, as easy as in a normal SDK, you can get scroll bars. You get things like move around things and
things like what we call scatter view, which is
yeah, that was in your demo.
Demonstrated in our
always sounds to me
our
like
photo demo.
This comes in with noise that sounds like feedback happening on the microphone.
We're working on the noise. So in this case, we've put an optical tag on a loyalty card or a card associated with a photo account. We can throw it anywhere on the surface. Again, it sees the tag. So you asked a question about the SDK. This is what we call our scatter mode, and this is something that we will allow. Our SDK, you can very quickly create any kind of content via documents that display in this scatter mode and then have these kinds of properties. Stretching, we don't have it on this system here today, but the ability we have momentum and inertia, so you can push a photo across the screen and it'll literally bounce off the borders.
Okay, so it's...
But again, the core tenets of a vision system are this natural kind of interaction. So using real-world mannerisms to interact with digital content.
Where'd it go? Did I put it,
just put it underneath.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so this one I can move this.
Usually you're better served to use your fingers.
Okay, fingers to make it smaller.
Yeah, or use
or
2.
the 2, and then to move it around 1, and this way to. Oops. I touched something. Went too fast.
Yeah, again, demo applications. We have
forward.
stacks of photos over there. It's not a performance issue as much as it's just making sure again the system does need to see our fingers.
Okay, and this you have some nice zooming.
So zooming, literally, we can go.
Yeah.
We can look at Nicole very closely. She's one of the designers on our team.
This is just as in the demo of the SDK. This is just like a few lines of code, and boom.
Literally, about 20 seconds, you could have this pointing to a library of your own content and be bouncing photos off and putting all kinds of different controls in. So, obviously, the SDK to us is a big part of our business going forward. Now, we are building some applications for the initial launch. We're building a photo application, a mapping application that we call Virtual Concierge. We're building a music application, and we're building what we call a track mode, which is the water. But going forward, it's really about putting more and more controls into our SDK so that a commercial partner can very easily build out their own mapping applications.
Show me some other stuff. Okay. Oh, this is the one with the movie where one of them is. So you can have any object. Here. Basically, you can have any. It doesn't matter.
Bring it back here.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So you can have any. And this is a normal Vista machine, so to speak.
It is a normal. It runs on a regular version of Vista. Now there's a software layer of ours, what we call our vision system, which is where.
You got stuck.
See where our photo went.
Yeah, it's over there in the corner. I can't get them out now.
That happens every now and then.
Okay. Well, how do I get out of this?
Well, there's a good way to get out here.
Okay. So you hold the corner.
Yeah, and again, this is not final design. What we're doing is designing a. I say. Let's see if I can. I know what the photo may have caused some problems there.
Yeah, here's where we go.
We have access points in the corners here, but it might.
The corner may have moved, so
should not have. I saw it there for a minute. Let's see if I can get.
Yeah, because this thing isn't. Now the other things are still working.
Yeah, can you see if you can just get Steven to reset it?
Yeah, bug. It wouldn't be a good demo if we didn't actually.
That's right. That's why we're not shipping yet.
Yeah. Okay, so so the SDK is going to give me access to a lot of this stuff, so we don't actually have to program all that. The SDK is now running on this. So I can write any language that I can work with Visual Studio. Is that?
Correct. Now, our SDK is primarily, most of the controls are based around WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation, which is new with Vista. So we also support XNA, and it really depends. You know, WPF.
That's the new. That's the gaming. The gaming API.
Correct.
Which means I can do 3D gaming type stuff and things like that.
Correct. And
okay.
so XNA.
Is that what you're using for these things, or
these are WPF? What you saw, the water application that we started out with, was done in XNA.
Okay.
Or a flavor of DirectX. Actually, I can get out of this. We don't need him. Casey, if he's not here, I can.
He's on his way.
Oh, I can. Yeah, okay. I thought he was right outside. Otherwise, once I find the keyboard, I can just.
Oh. So there isn't like just a reset button or something like that?
There will be.
I can't see a bartender running off for a keyboard. Or
no,
like
bartenders will not be running off for keyboards. We'll have remote management of the system too, so we could reset it at a distance.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Are we
these are
still
older
filming
demos.
at this point?
Yeah. What other type? Oh, I can cut this. This would be a waste.
Could you?
The question's going to be what else? Well, while he's coming, what other things can we see in here? What other capabilities do we have? Because this is still running. So.
Within Photos?
Yeah, what other capabilities?
So a big thing that we show with...
you show this with the camera.
We have shown this before. I could show it again if you like.
Tell me this camera. Now, this is a normal camera, or is it
so what we've done is this is a Wi-Fi camera.
Oh, it's a Wi-Fi camera.
Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Again, we're not inventing anything new here, but what we've done, we could do it either by putting a tag on the camera, which is a way that we do it in an environment like the home.
That was the trick, okay, a little tag on the bottom.
We don't have to do it that way, though. That's just the way we have done it to show that we can do tagging. We could also build the application, though, such that when I take a photo, if you don't mind, real close up here. I take a photo. Now, again, with a Wi-Fi camera, we could go through and create the pairing. We've put an optical tag on the camera. We could also just say, when you put the camera down here, go look for that wireless connection and go pull that content and bring it onto the surface.
There you got me. That's what I look like here, okay?
So the idea behind it is simplifying that process of moving content back and forth from devices. We can even do special things with you if we want to create. If we're in an environment like the Sheraton and we want to send a quick postcard off to let everybody know what we're up to here.
Okay, so the UI that you're playing with at this point is corner hold.
Yeah, and that's not the UI that we will ultimately ship within the application. These, I want to emphasize, these demos were done very quickly to showcase what's possible. But we haven't done all the fit and finish and usability type work. What we're trying to do is get away from the traditional Windows paradigms of drop-down menus,
well, that's why I'm wondering
text
about
boxes.
Other people experimenting with it. Or are you going to be giving? Do you have standards that you're going to be providing? Or
we do.
Do you know what they are yet? So we can.
We do, but they're evolving. Things? We have a document we call our user experience guidelines, which really just takes all the learnings and research that we've done over 4+ years on this.
That's online now.
It is available to our partners. Yeah, so it comes with the SDK.
Well, because Apple is coming out with their gesture guidelines and stuff, and they released that about a month ago or something. More and more of it. And as people are starting to program for the iPhone and the iPod Touch, they're going to start thinking, what gesture general stuff should we do? There's some commonality here. It's just like clicking on a mouse and all. We don't care whether we're using. People are going to go from their iPhone to sit down and do this. They're going to have tags on the back of their iPhones, much as you may or may not like it. So, and if you establish certain user interface things, people may implement that on their iPhone applications instead of what Apple says. I mean, but you have to tell us what they are.
Yeah.
So.
No, there's a couple of things that we do. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at ways to make the SDK available to more people, and those guidelines then would be distributed to more people. Another thing, we're clearly looking at what's happening in surface computing as a whole. So I look at the iPhone as a surface computing product, and what we want to do is have standard conventions, things like stretching a photo. We can't have that meaning two different things in two different places. Maybe it means stretch here and it means delete somewhere else. So that's really the purpose of having guidelines and adhering to some standards.
We get those, because I know, the iPhone has all over the place. If you start getting into different apps, they do different things, mean different things in different places. But what's the gesture language going to be? Especially, but you also have hover. You going to reset this? Can you just?
Yeah, just all.
Wanted to reset? Okay.
Just hit a reset.
I think the important thing too, though, is that
you're using the wireless keyboard is how you did it, and you're able to do it with a wireless keyboard over there. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that an administrator would have.
But this is a normal machine. Okay.
It is.
Okay, show me something else.
Let's look at.
Thank you very much.
Look at a retail application. We've actually had overwhelming interest from the retail segment as a whole. We started out by, we built a fairly simple mobile phone demo, but really have had interest from apparel companies, from automotive dealerships, you name it, we've had interest, and they're really just seeing this as a great way to engage the customer in a buying experience, especially around complex transactions.
Well, the price point, if it really is $5,000, compared to mounting a LCD display, a big with a PC behind it or something like that, you're competitive enough because you're going to pay enough.
Right.
The person to install it is going to cost, and the mount and all that is going to start costing that range. So okay, this is not out of the question in terms of pricing. Okay, so.
The idea within the example here, T-Mobile we announced as one of our partners. The idea is walking into a T-Mobile store, instead of waiting for a salesperson, instead of having a phone that's tethered to a wall, you could actually grab a phone, set it down anywhere on the surface. It's just a phone with an optical tag on it. But then we can associate all kinds of information. So the idea is to make it a more immersive buying experience for a customer. Be able to get the kind of information you get in an online experience, but get it and actually touch and feel the device at the same time.
Okay.
Some of the other things we can do, you've probably been in online scenarios where you do product comparisons. Works great online, but when you come into the store, if you want to do a comparison, you have to walk to 2 different locations. So the ability to grab a second device off the shelf, touch it and feel it, but then use this sort of as a large digital workbench to do side-by-side comparisons.
Oh, that's cool.
And these are just tagged objects.
So this is, okay, so I'm getting a feel as a developer of what I can do with this. With programming, and given that it has the camera and stuff like that, okay, and you're just showing some of but it's whatever I could show on a normal Vista display, I can show here basically.
That's correct.
Okay.
But then we'd also say there's a lot more you can do with that content here, in terms of the object interaction. In terms of the gestures that you use. So it's really about the way you interact.
Are you connected to the internet here? Can I browse or anything?
We aren't in this room right now, but it absolutely will be a connected device.
I saw a little but we had a Wi-Fi connection to your camera, and we had a whatever the wireless is to the keyboard that we just saw. So we were doing that.
The unit will ship with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and an Ethernet connection. So obviously, being a connected device is very important, especially for applications like this, refreshing content.
Okay, so if I wanted to buy 6 of these, put them in a boardroom, lift them up high and make a boardroom table that had 3 and 3. I could sit there and I could use this to read my, to send out, the presentations. I don't have to. Each of us can have our own copy, 2 people next to each other or something. I could build that if I wanted to, if you let me.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that I mentioned at the onset, we're focused on leisure and entertainment and the retail segments out of the gate. We are very actively looking at expanding into other markets.
You're looking at volume. I'm looking at cost as no object.
The enterprise is, of course, a market that we think has a lot of compelling value.
If this is sitting in a, if the CEO and CFO are using this in their normal thing, it's like the Post-it note given to the secretary of the president or the CEO. I mean, then of course when you say, well, why don't we have this in every Home Depot? It becomes, well, of course, I'm used to it. So.
And that's really our vision for the category.
But experimentation on the part of the CTO experimenting, or the person within the company want to experiment, they're safe places where they can experiment. And they don't have to commit to buying 10,000 units or 1,000 or whatever these guys. But okay.
And that's very critical to our strategy.
Okay.
So as I talked about growing the market, getting the SDK into more people's hands so that they can do those kinds of things.
Show me something else.
And just to let you know, we have just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I know. So that's why What else is?
You want to see other applications, or we can show you more what you could do with this?
I just wanted other things that'll get me an idea of what I could do with this.
Let me show you
especially anything that hasn't been. Is there anything that hasn't been shown that there aren't videos of already?
There's nothing new on this system. I don't know how many of these videos are out. We're refreshing some of the demos, probably around the January timeframe.
Okay.
This is our food and beverage application. So the idea here is we walk into a restaurant, maybe we're here at the Sheraton, want to order a drink, we can just walk up to the screen and touch it, bring up a beverage menu in this case. I can scroll through some different items. So again, these are other...
How do I get it on my side?
You'd come and join, you could either touch or you could bring your room key down and it would identify you. So something that we're showing here, we like to talk a lot about a concept we call our 360-degree UI. This, of course, is the 180-degree version. But this idea that the screen will orient to us wherever we're seated around the unit. And that's very important. It's something you don't see in Windows or a Mac environment.
So this isn't smooth yet.
Not yet.
It doesn't feel like...
again, remember, this is an older build of the system, so trust that most of the work we're doing now is not feature adding, it's performance tuning.
Okay. And it says here, drag here to order, so
we can drag some items into the queue. And this kind of you
have to push nice and hard here because you don't want to order inadvertently. Okay.
Right, and those are the kinds of
things. How do I know what I've ordered?
You can, when you want to actually send the order through, you can just go ahead and hit the button,
and then it'll tell me what it is. Oh, but I didn't. Okay. This needs a lot of work. Okay.
Still a demo.
Okay. Still a demo.
So the idea is that we're linked to a POS system. This would actually send our order out. We can do different things.
Oh, here it is. Here we go. Now I know. I put it in the middle. It tells me what this guy's going to pay for. Okay, that's good. And it came from this side. This side. It is better than that. Okay.
So we can do different things with an object. Here, bring a drink over, and I'll show over here.
My thing, which
yours is not reflective.
Reflective. Okay, because it's.
So in this case, we actually have a tag on the glass, but we can look at a shape as well.
Okay. Great.
Again, so it's whatever the application is looking
about.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we can make it look for whatever we want it to look for. But the idea is you could do different things with messaging around a drink. Bit of a glimpse to the future. In a hotel environment, we could clear transactions with an optical tag on a room key or a loyalty card. We're also doing a lot of work looking at near-field communications and other types of RFID technologies. Either will work.
Okay. Anything I can plug in. There's a lot of USB connectors in this machine.
4 connectors inside the unit. So anything you want to connect.
And gigs of the disk on it and stuff like that.
As much as you need. Yes.
Okay. It's a regular machine with a regular. I can slide things into it and stuff.
It is correct. Now it's underneath, it's inside of the skin on the outside. We don't expose the ports because we don't want people walking in a commercial environment plugging things in, but you as the customer could build whatever you want. But something we like to show is, as we move toward, RFID and other technologies, the ability to clear a transaction by simply dragging objects to a physical card.
Change the tip.
Have a little tip calculator.
Okay, so if I want 25% tip, 80, 30, okay, cool.
And, again, these are demos. We design them to be simple. We could add security, a passcode, whatever the case may be, to make whatever's appropriate for the environment. But again, this idea of associating digital content with physical objects is a theme you'll see us do throughout.
Capabilities of the thing, or this is all just showing what we could do with the capabilities?
I think we've highlighted the majority of the capabilities. I think that the key takeaway is, think of this as really innovation and interface. If you look at, the way you look at technology and where it's come in 25 years, all the digital content we have, nothing's really changed in the way you interact with it.
Right. So what we're using is we're basically using a camera with certain automatic vision things programmed into the system to give you multi-touch of various sorts. I mean, basically, but it's taking advantage of a camera that is able to see surfaces that are getting near the surface, other surfaces that are getting near the surface. Is basically
that's correct, and I would just say we're using cameras and we're using a lot of software.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously,
but
then
you're crunching, taking advantage of what are all the things you could do with that in software, and you're giving. I can get raw image if I wanted,
correct,
which basically is a very bad black and white image of what's very high contrast, black and white of what it's seeing, correct, so to speak.
Correct.
Or I can then get a higher level from your SDK where it will say, I'll translate that for images of objects that you're dragging around, or
correct. It'll feed you inputs. It'll say, I see 5 fingers. That's a hand.
What about and recognition? Could handwriting recognition, stuff like that?
Yeah, we have that capability as well. So it's a couple different ways. Doing it through a finger. We have an incorporated stylus in the first version here.
Can I run what's it called? The stuff that I use on my tablet PC. I can get some of those journal and things like that.
We have not enabled those applications for the system. Technically, is it possible? Absolutely. We just haven't really seen the use cases yet.
And what about running other software on this other than Windows?
From an operating system standpoint?
Yes. Could I
unfortunately,
could I put VMware or something, or your and virtual machine and put some other stuff?
you have Windows underneath the
Yeah.
system, so anything you could load on top of Windows, you could load on here. The challenge is you're not going to get any of the interaction with the Vision system isn't going to be compatible with it.
Unless if you sent that over the Ethernet to some other system or something, you could do that if you wanted.
There's always some creative ways to try to do things, but it would not be easy.
It's like Microsoft Mouse. The Microsoft Mouse is used on all sorts of machines made by who knows what. But this could be a Microsoft Mouse, so to speak, connected to. I could have a Solaris back end behind 30 of these or something.
Yeah, the challenge is that you would have to write your own Vision
Yeah,
system layer on top of Windows, and that's really where the 4 years and millions of dollars of IP and effort has come on our part. So if somebody wanted to take that on, I suppose
IP,
you could do it.
what IP?
We have a lot of both hardware and software IP. So a lot of stuff around the way that we've done the camera implementation, the actual interactions inside, and then at the software layer, things of like different types of gestures. We have IP around business methods, purchasing things.
Business method. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Why do you groan there?
Well, some Microsoft people and the Supreme Court seem to be questioning business method patents to some extent about that, since Microsoft seems to be on both sides of these issues.
Yeah, you'll have to trust us. These are things that enhance the experience that are not onerous in our minds, at least.
But some of the we won't get into that.
Well, thank you for your time. We do have to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Great. Glad we could do it. Thanks.
Take care.